Ready to get down to business? Join seasoned entrepreneur, community leader, and Army veteran Scott Shalom Klein, who will take you behind the scenes with those who work in America's small business scene and speak with leaders making an impact, creating jobs, and telling their story in entrepreneurship. So let's get down to business. On AM 560, The Answer, here's your host, Shalom Klein.
And indeed, we're all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship and business. We talk a lot about business here on with Get Down to Business. And I'm your host, Shalom Klein. Remember, you can always download podcasts from Get Down to Business on my website at shalomklein.com. While you're there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. It's going to be a jam-packed week of content and information you will not want to miss. So let's jump right in with the architect of possibilities. That's Thom Stimpel, who's a transformational business leader with 35 years of multi-product, multi-market, multinational experience. He's an author. We'll talk a little bit about that. Trainer, podcaster. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And business advisor, again, often referred to as the architect of possibilities. Thom has a passion for helping aspiring entrepreneurs assess their ability to succeed as business owners and helping struggling businesses solve complex problems, capitalize on important opportunities, reinvent themselves, create new competitive advantages, and thrive. So, Thom Stimpel, architect of possibilities. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Shalom. It's great to be on. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to have you. I was honored to be a guest on your show a few weeks ago, and it taught me a lot of your expertise in this space. So it's great to have you. I always love to get to know the person behind the microphone. Thom, you've been doing this for a little while, and I say that as a very positive thing. You have a lot of experience in helping quite literally thousands of entrepreneurs. And I'd love to get to know your story of where you caught your entrepreneurial bug. Can you share that with our listeners?
Sure. Well, I think the bug was something that I was born with, because even as a very young boy, I was always looking for ways to make some money and buy some things I needed. Like I was in junior high, I needed a new baseball glove, and I wanted one nicer than my dad was prepared to buy for me. And it just went on from there. When I was in high school, saving money for concerts and so on and so forth. But I spent my career in a lot of different industries. That was very helpful for me. I was in ranching for a long time. I was in aerospace for a while. I was in computers for a long time. I did global trade. I ran a publishing company in Los Angeles. And so it was a very broad set of experiences, but probably the most influential to me, anyway, was my time with Digital Equipment Corporation. I spent 17 years there. And that was an organization that really promoted the idea of being very entrepreneurial, try out new things, take jobs where you were going to have to stretch yourself and learn new things. And by the time I left there, I knew very well that at some point in the future, I would probably start my own consulting or advisory business. And so after 9/11, when so many industries melted down, including the publishing, 50-year-old publishing company I was running in L.A., I decided, well, this is the time. So I began Proactive Business Improvements in 2002 and been following that path ever since.
That's wild. And what I love about your story, Thom, is that you haven't only just been, call it tactically, helping, but you've actually, I put it into this strategic lens of, through your book, through your podcast, really there's immeasurable impact. And you just said a lot of the buzzwords that we talk a lot about on Get Down to Business. You talked about how you just knew, that you knew you had it in you, and that's great. So, let's dive into the advice over here. There's many folks right now. We have a weird economy, Thom. We've got weird economy. There are businesses that are doing exceptionally well. There's also a lot of folks out there that are underemployed. They're not quite sure if they're doing the thing that they actually love. So, somebody that has an idea, let's say they've got the next greatest, big app or the next greatest product. What is the first step you see really great aspiring entrepreneurs take when they start with that idea?
Well, the really good ones do a great deal of planning and research. They look at their market to make certain that it's as strong as they think it is. They create an ideal client profile and go talk to some of those people to get their feedback. They do some great business planning, some really good budgeting, including cash flow management. That's an area that a lot of people screw up. And and they're patient. They launch it in a way where they're not just going, full bore, straight on, ignoring the details. My book talks a lot about that. In fact, about the first quarter of it, test people as to they can do a self-assessment test to determine if they even should be an entrepreneur, because based on the numbers of small business failures in the country, the vast majority of people probably should not attempt to start a business.
I couldn't agree more, Thom. And that's exactly where I want to go in this conversation. I think that there's a lot written, and of course, we're going to send people to your podcast, to your book, talk a lot about, again, the things that aspiring entrepreneurs can and should be doing. But let's sort of go somewhere where I haven't gone on Get Down to Business. Who is not the right fit for entrepreneurship? Who should stay far, far, far away from this topic?
Well, I think people who don't have patience, people who, think that they have the greatest idea on earth, and so they don't need to do any research, they don't need to talk to anybody, they're just going to hang a shingle and go out and do it. I think, people who have not had some level of experience in the business world, so that they at least can foresee the things that they don't understand well enough, and go get some help. And on that topic, anybody who thinks they can do it all, I promise you can't. And so we go through all of those stages in the book and talk to people about, if you can't do this, stop right now. If this is your attitude, stop right now, because we're going to save you a lot of money, a lot of grief, maybe save the equity in your house, your child's college education fund, and maybe even your marriage. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm chatting with the author of The Entrepreneurial Mindset. That's Thom Stimpel. He's, again, a national business advisor, former corporate executive, and in the book, Thom explores why your small business is at such a high risk of failure. It is, as the book says, an essential text for those who want their business to thrive. And Thom, I guess, we're having this conversation, obviously, in late 2023. There's a lot of industries out there. A lot is said to be happening right now with AI. But is there one particular industry that you are watching some really interesting and cool things happening in both your consulting practice, your podcast? You're fortunate to have a front row seat to entrepreneurship.
Well, honestly, I keep my eye on small businesses and unique ideas. The AI thing is an interesting topic for me because one of my business partners and I are working on creating yet another company with two other partners. And one of them is a tech guy who wants to use AI extensively, but in our early use of it, we're finding that it's not, it doesn't translate well enough to human emotions to be able to be as useful as people would like it to be. And so we're actually kind of steering away from AI temporarily, I'm sure, and doing all of our writing, doing all of our communications, doing our podcasts, writing our books, all that kind of stuff, the old-fashioned way. Just sit down at the keyboard.
Well, you don't stop, Thom. You don't stop, and you've got the energy from the day that you started. That same entrepreneurial bug that you caught, that you started in this conversation, is actually where I want to go and come to a conclusion over here. So again, you've written a book. It sounds like you're working on even more. You've got a podcast. Let's talk about forms that you have and how you're inspiring folks. Where can people find you?
Well, the easiest place for them to find me is one of my websites, the largest one, which is www.flawlesslaunch.com. At that site, they can see about our Facebook community. They can read about the book. They can get to all of the podcasts. Pretty soon, we'll be advertising a training program for entrepreneurs based on my book. That Tom Flory and I have been putting together for over a year now. And I also talk a little bit, not too much in there, a little bit about a TEDx talk that I'm working on trying to get developed and delivered. It's all about how defeating the epidemic of small business failures in the U.S.
Well, I can't speak highly enough about your podcast as well as your books. You've got some real nuggets of wisdom in there. And I love that you are continuing to evolve. I mean, you mentioned, I heard that in what you just said about AI, that temporarily, you're looking at it, carefully, but who knows, you'll come back to it. But you bring on some amazing guests, and we're very, very grateful to have this partnership with you, and looking forward to having you back on and continuing this conversation many more times. One more time, your website.
Yes, it's www.flawlesslaunch.com. And that will also lead you to one of my other websites. But Flawless Launch is the one that contains most of the data that people will want to take a look at.
Awesome. Well, Thom Stimpel, thanks for coming on. We'll be right back in the Get Down to Business.